So, everything in India starts with trains, and I will not repeat stories about Indian trains. If you want to hear them, you have to go to the previous presentation about South India. But I will tell you that train you see here in the picture was the train with which we went to Goa. Goa is known as kind of hippie corner, let's say, of India. Probably the only state, the only place where you can go in swimming suit and shirts and stuff like this, and where you have a big chance to meet more Westerners than actually Indians. It's a beautiful place, as you will see in the picture soon, but I wouldn't say very representative of India itself. Anyway, we start from South Goa, and that's the first place we visited was actually Tribe Goa, which is local changemakers. I will tell you a little bit about. Basically, it's a project which cares about nature around. They try to conserve, protect the nature around. Everything starts from Alex, who was fascinated by actually snakes and wildlife. He tried to rescue it, snakes especially, and he actually provides service for local community of taking snakes away. So instead of killing snakes, local people can call him, and whatever time it is, even middle of the night, he will come and take the snake out of house. The service, though, has to be free because people will not pay for him to come to rescue snakes. Maximum, they will just kill it. So to actually sustain, the tribe Goa have found different ways, the main of them being hostel, which you can visit, you can stay with them. You will sleep in those kind of places. This is kind of private room. Later you will also see dormitory where we slept. But whatever place it is, it doesn't have any walls, only roof to protect you from the rain. So you're kind of really in the middle of the nature. It's a very isolated place, so the only things you hear are really birds and nature itself. You don't hear any cars, any crowd, anything. So it's a very good place to be, to rest and to come back to more natural way of living. For example, there's no really light and it's on purpose, so we can come back to follow the rhythm of sun. There is a bit of electricity with solar panels and so on, but basically they encourage guests to live as natural as possible. And their project is really sustainable in many different ways. So every small thing, being collecting water, compost toilet, you can find it there on the sustainable way. And they also organize small tours to show people what the nature around and how we actually can protect it. So this, as I said, is dormitory we slept, so you can still see more bats, and basically just with mosquito net, it's perfect feeling of being in the nature. We didn't stay there very long though. We just stayed there 24 hours or so because, as for our budget, it was still a little bit expensive and we wanted to explore a little bit more South Goa. So we just moved to the camping and we had like few days, like 2 days holiday of interviews and volunteering and stuff like this, just to give ourselves time to kind of be on the beach and enjoy sun and beautiful Goa. More than that probably wouldn't be able to do, but it was, I think, also my birthday and we celebrated with a little bit of silence, which is not easy to get in India. Usually there's so many things going on that whenever we planned the break, it just didn't work out. While South Goa is really perfect place to relax a bit, enjoy beautiful places, and stay a little bit closer to yourself. From there, we actually moved a little bit more to the center of Goa. It's not that big region, all in all, although it's not easy region to travel through because the public system work only till, let's say, late afternoon, and then there's like kind of taxi mafia who takes over. They are the only choice if you don't have your own scooter, which most people choose. So most people would just rent or buy their own scooter. In cities especially, you see a lot of Portuguese influence after colonialism still, like really literally Portuguese sign. This is still from Goa, which, well, we have a bit sentiment as we met in Portugal. Actually, but it was quite surprising to see it in the middle of India. And in the city itself, we already managed to find couchsurfer. This is our couchsurfer who was very fascinated about food. So basically, we spent 2 days of being in his place, speaking about food and also cooking together. So Andrea prepared Italian pasta. And I have to tell you that it's not easy to prepare Italian food for people in India, especially. And I have to say that these few times when we did it, people were always kind of disappointed because they have their own vision how Italian pasta should look like, and what we prepare for them usually was not exactly matching the expectation. So of course they didn't tell it directly to us, but you could see from their faces that it's not what they call Italian pasta. But anyway, we prepared it. We ate it with good company of people, but also drink. Here we have a drink which is very typical for Goa. It's called fan. It's done from fruits of cashew. And it's very interesting because it's legal to sell it only in Goa. This is the only place in the world you can legally buy it and drink it and sell it. Basically, that's the whole point. It's quite strong. I think you can see here is like 40-something%. I mean, by itself, I wouldn't say it's that good. But in this cocktail, you see on the picture with a bit of chili, salt, lemon, or whatever our host put there, it's actually quite delicious. Also in Goa, we had a chance to speak a little bit about our project, starting from Toastmasters. I don't know if you know this initiative. It's kind of an initiative for people who want to train their public speaking. And we meet with them in different parts of the world. And it's always challenging to do the speech in front of them about our projects because they really very carefully follow your public speaking skills. We're often giving feedback, very detailed one, but we are always happy to do it because it also improves our own skills. From there, we came back a little bit to smaller places. And we went to North Goa, where we met Arun. Arun is couchsurfer, is workawayer, but is also kind of owner of hostel, which also have their own commercial client, but most people come there rather to join the community, and he's basically accepting everybody who would like to join and create a space for people to express what's deeply inside them through art, through ecological project, through dancing, through yoga, through just speaking to each other. It's a place where people sometimes come for a few hours and stay for a few months or keep coming back. Because they really find the community, the people who understand their purpose of life and so on. We were then unfortunately in quite party moment. I mean, Goa is generally quite party place and there's all the time some festivals, but in this particular moment there was huge festival, so a lot of guests of this hostel actually were more into partying than spiritual development or stuff. But anyway, being 3 days there and visiting Goa, I will meanwhile show you some more photos. We completely fall in love with our own project. And this is not the only hostel. He has also other places he had before, he wants to develop in future. And the idea is to have this place where everybody can come and just be. And he sustained it a bit through the paid customers he got from Booking.com or other pages, and a bit just asking the community if anybody want to support even 10 euro per year the project, they can. And 10 euro if you stay there maybe 3 days or 3 weeks, if 3 months is not that much. He calculated that if 700 people from his network would support with 10 euro, it would be enough to sustain the project for a year. And his network is much bigger because it's like many hundreds of people who already crossed this place or who would like to cross it in the future, and who really want to do something more. It's not only about physical space, it's actually much more about this belonging community, believing in the same dreams and vision. And we are very happy that we had a chance to also in some sense join this community. From there, we move further, but before I move further in the presentation itself, the last memory from train station. So we have two guys hugging each other, and I have to tell you that it's not uncommon view in India. This is really interesting. I have to tell you that at the beginning I thought, oh my gosh, it's so nice that the gay couple can be so openly together, go hand by hand on the street, because there were so many of them. And very fastly discovered it's not true. They are not couple at all. And just male friends very often would really go hand by hand or hugging each other on the street, because touch has very different meaning in India. It's really a way to express also your friendship feeling, the fact that you feel close to this person, not necessarily in erotic or sexual way. It's much more to express intimacy than actually sexuality, and it's so much different than what we have in Europe, you know. And actually Andrea wrote a very interesting post about this called Touch Me, so you can also have a look in our blog. Because this kind of differences provoke a lot of our thoughts about importance of touch, the way we use it, and so on. And let me go further to the Hasmukh project. That was our main volunteering project in the north. And he created Sapna Ranch, which is kind of experimental space where you can come and learn and experiment different kind of building. For example, you can build your own chair from whatever is around. We volunteered there, for example, helping in organizing a little bit the library, or of course creating gardens as well, following permaculture idea. Although that was much more Andrea's task, I have to say, that mine. But in Sapna Ranch, every situation is a possibility to learn. So Hasmukh, for example, will never tell you, hey, come to help me to cook. He will rather say, hey, come so I teach you how to do dosa, so the food which you see now on the picture. And by learning, you are also actually helping to cook a meal. We tried many different Indian dishes there, but also some Italian ones. So we have done spaghetti or pizza or risotto, which I have to say was even worse experiment than doing pasta for Indians. Never do rice for Indians. This absolutely doesn't work. You know, we have very different concept of how rice can be used. Actually, every meal was kind of occasion to meet, to discuss, and especially morning was also a small ceremony. So every meal we would start from a few moments of silence where we could pray, or we could just express our silent gratitude to those who allow us to have this food. And in the morning, additionally, we would share our yoo-hoo moments from the previous day. So we would share what was that our aha, our yoo-hoo, our hooray moment from the day before, which was a very interesting way to start the day. And then we will discuss what has to be done in that particular day and how can we share those tasks. But Sapna Ranch is actually just, as I said, experimenter center, because the idea is to actually create a learning space, kind of alternative schools for kids in much bigger land, which together with around 30 families, they are just buying now. Actually, the beginning it was supposed to be school, but then the parents who are into alternative education say that, hey, but we want actually to live in this place as well, because kids would live there in this school, so they will not come back to home because it would be also some farm a little bit farther. But the families say, we want to live there as well. So the idea of community arrived, and now they want to have both alternative school, kind of in the middle, surrounded by community, where people can also live, be, and create together. And in the Sapna Ranch, when we volunteer, they experiment, for example, with buildings or different things, which then can be replicated in the proper community space. Their plans moved a bit. Of course, on one hand, because we have coronavirus and everything stopped, but also actually they experienced the cyclones, so the hurricane these days. And on their page, or especially in Hasmukh profile, you can read very interesting relation from what happened, because they were all structures built by him. Hasmukh is the first on the left, and he said that 80% of them survived, although even electricity was gone, everything was gone. And it's very interesting to see also his approach to mistakes and how can we learn from them. So they have also project, or now it's called EBHLE, so it's EBHLE. If you want to check it, of course, we can also share links in the comments to this live if you would like to follow a little bit more. Every Wednesday we would go to the city, or rather small town, because the farm itself is quite isolated. There's only one bus per day, so it's not easy to go there. But on a Wednesday, we could use the chance to actually kind of, go to buy some fruits, vegetables, because not so many things are yet produced in the farm itself. And it's a great occasion to see the small town, which usually is not that active, to transform completely into marketplace, because people from all the villages around come that day to sell, to buy, to do all the things they need to do. So it's a great occasion to observe Indian life and to also do what you actually need to do in terms of buying. For example, you can buy the juice from sugarcane is here, but also in terms of services. So you can use hairdresser if your hair are already too long. So, it's changed. Even in traveling, you have to do it from time to time. And that was also the time when Hasmukh took us to this very small kind of house cashew factory. What I tell you now is a story of really small family factory, so it's not true for all the massive production, but we could see more or less how it works, and it's not that easy. You have to use many machines to dry the cashew and then wet them again and dry, and I'm not able to now explain all the process, but one day I will write a post about that. We're step by step, or maybe small movie, where step by step we can explain it. And generally, the machines open the cashew, but then you need to finish this opening manually, which is done by women here. They have their regular hours working usually on that. There are mostly women working, because they told us that men, when they are trained, very often they would go to other factory or other work, while women are not. It's not even more about effectiveness of opening, but rather loyalty somehow to the company itself. And then it again go through different machines, because you want to remove all this parts which are not eatable, and from machines going again to other women, which separate not only those who are not fully open, but they also separate full cashew nuts from those which got broken. They would be all sold or all used, but in different ways. So those which are full, not broken, would be sold to other clients than those which are broken and may go, for example, to different kind of sweets. We also bought some of these cashews, and they are really, really good. Okay, from our volunteering farm, we went to Mumbai and Pune, and actually we stayed there completely or not completely, but in huge part within their network, because as I told you, they already have like 30 families interested in joining community, and they are really into homeschooling or even unschooling. So we kind of end up in people who are into those topics, and with them we organized different workshops. Sometimes in small group that was like meeting for 5-6 women, sometimes in bigger one. Here you see different families connected to Satnaraj, and basically all of them are into homeschooling or unschooling, and we meet with them later in the conference. But I will come back to that. But we also had the chance to go to quite a regular school. In this case, well, it was private school. It was not exactly maybe regular school in the meaning that, they didn't, they were more open-minded, but it was a school where kids go every day, have regular lessons and so on. But in this case, they invite us, and in really 24 hours, they organize 200 kids, and they say, they should have lessons, but, there are more important things in life than lessons, and meeting with you would be more educational experience with them. So in 24 hours, they organize actually bus to bring them for other place to meet with us. And another time as a guest, they have actually 16 years old guy who quit the school, became musician, and now is quite famous and successful. And they invite him to speak to young people. So you can also imagine how open-minded they are. And from that point of view, we met really a lot of interesting educational projects in India, not on different scale, from completely unschooling to still school, which follow, let's say, more traditional way, but find the doors to make it in more open way. Of course, it was not the only changemaker we met. Other very interesting organization. I think it's called Xamata, but forgive me if I pronounce it bad. And this is organization which is supporting women who are victims of different kind of exploitation, of like human trafficking and so on. And the owner itself was working for different international NGOs trying to rescue victims of human trafficking. But after a while, she realized that she's actually re-rescuing the same girls again, because it's not enough to rescue them from human trafficking if you don't take them out of exploitation situation, which very often come from their own families. If you don't give them social skills which they don't have, they would end up in the same situation again. So she actually quit and opened her own NGO, which focus on those which are already rescued, and work with them in governmental shelters, which provide space for these girls to stay, but nothing else really. So she provide like kind of life skills workshops there, and she also have her own center for about 17, 18 girls. I mean, girls, they're all more than 18, so actually women, which want to really change their life, and they live there, but they also for 1-2 years but they are also preparing to come back to society. So each of these girls have her own coach, and together with coach they design the way. So some of them go for vocational training, some of them actually go for basic education because they don't have it. Some of them work in the small sewing social business, which they also have there, so they can get experience how it is to have your own business. And so on, so on. So each girl has her own schedule to follow. Then there are some classes which are due for a few of them, some meeting of all communities. So they also have a very important role in managing the place itself. And then when they are ready, they are supported for some time also outside. They live in common houses with other girls, and step by step, they became more and more independent and are able to come back to society without the risk to be victim again. Other very interesting change-making project is Sferula Foundation, and they work on probably every topic you can imagine. One of the topic very dear to them is actually menstruation. That's what we spent most time to talk, because there is still a lot of misconception about menstruation, especially in rural areas. And very often girls don't know how to take care in hygienic way of themselves, and which can be very dangerous for their health or even life. For example, in India, you don't even see the women underwear to dry after washing, because it's just kind of a shame. So what they do very often with dirty underwear after period, they may put it somewhere to dry in the shadow when there are also bacteria, and if they use it again, it's actually not hygienic and really dangerous for them. But this is just one of the problems. There's also a lot of misconception of those girls who are in their period of being not unclean, so they cannot enter the temples, they cannot do this and that, and there's a lot of work to do both on education, but meanwhile also on really saving life and health of those girls. But it's not the only topic. You can really check them as well. They work on many different topics. Whatever need they see in India, they try to answer it with hundreds of volunteers which support them on the regular basis. Okay, those were changemakers from this region of Mumbai and Pune, which we stayed quite a lot, trying to visit both cities. In Mumbai, we stay in co-working space, which was not maybe particular change making, but it was they actually accept couch surfers in the meeting room, and but it was in such a busy street, I mean, north is different than south, definitely. It's much louder, much more crowded. There's much more rubbish in some sense. That was also first time in Mumbai when we really saw huge slums, which were not that visible on the south, or not that present in some sense. Mumbai is kind of financial center of India, so in the center, it's very modern. Although it really depends on which part of the city you go, you can find very different ways. Pune, which Pune is it's not too far. It's maybe 3 hours by bus, but it's much more kind of alternative and social rated, and you see the difference between those cities quite immediately. I have to say that Pune could be my favorite city in India, which I couldn't say about Mumbai for sure. Although, I mean, there's a lot of things going in Mumbai as well. So if you are really going through North India, probably anyway, you end up there one way or another. So it's still worth to go see around, but I would really recommend you to go a little bit out of the city center to see also how people live, not only in these business areas. As I mentioned, yeah, in Mumbai we stay in this Hasmukh network, but in Pune we were actually hosted by Sunanda and Amit, who are founder of the Daftar, which is co-working space. I already told you in the presentation about South that co-working spaces are the best place to knock because they are very open to host, to collaborate, and so on. And also what we love about India is that, I mean, people there have very entrepreneurial approach. This is very different than our experience from Southeast Asia, for example, where people were rather followers. While in India, there's a lot of leaders. It's really amazing. And those guys especially, I mean, whatever question we ask, whatever problem we have, they were able to solve it in 5 minutes, I promise. If you listen us in the live or later, again, being thank you for our 48 hours together. We didn't spend that much time together, but it was really one of the best days. I mean, it's amazing how fast you can create very deep relation with somebody. And that was also the time when we started to go much deeper into conversation, discussing different issues which before we couldn't meet people open enough to discuss, like love or arranged marriage or the class system, current situation of India, and so on and so on. We really hope to meet you again if you come to Europe, because actually Sunanda and Amit spent quite a lot of time in Europe, and for some sense they have a lot in common with European culture, so much that I asked them many times if they're really Indians. But again, who is Indian? You know, India is so big that just saying that somebody is Indian is tell you absolutely nothing. They took us a bit around. They cook also amazing food. Actually, their Italian pasta was really brilliant. And they live in this amazing place. Just look at this, you know, the flat, they live in quite small flat, but they still have access to all these amazing things here, where it's like swimming pool and all the games and whatever, and you can walk in the nature hearing nobody. So after Mumbai, that was really a paradise for us for this few days of, you know, just chilling out before really crowdy, really colorful, really noisy Rajasthan and Punjab, so even more north part. And this is where we came from, Pune. So our next stop was in Rajasthan, which is, yeah, I mean, we stopped in the middle of the desert for Learning Society and Conference, which is a very interesting concept of basically community meeting for 5 days, community of people which maybe didn't know each other, but they are all into kind of alternative stuff. It started from alternative education, but now you can find there are sort of alternative ideas, like people who do organic farming or social projects or whatever it is. And I mean, it's very interesting concept because, I mean, it's not like conference. I mean, it's called unconference, right? So you don't have really program before. It's like, it's people who arrive who create program. And here is the program, let's say, no? So you can see that there are 3 shots, like let's say morning workshops and then 2 shots of workshops in the afternoon. And at the same time, I don't know if you can see in this photo, but there are 30 places in which workshops or activities can happen. 30. Some of them are rooms, some of them are just particular tree people can sit under. And if you want to propose something, being organized workshop, or being just playing frisbee, or being discussing about something, singing together, any kind of activity, you put it in the paper and just stick it in the right place. And then the spaces are numbered, so you can see if you want to go for, okay, today I want to discuss sense of life, you know, and I see this is in the place number 11. You look around, aha, this tree is 11. You just go there. Also, there are some proposed hours, but you don't have to really stick to them. So it's more things happen when they happen. And if you don't know where to go, you may go for one place to 10 minutes, see if you like it. If not, go to another place, which I have to say that for me as a trainer, which usually work in quite a structure, was very challenging at the beginning. I didn't understand how I was supposed to do a workshop if people come and go. But actually, it's quite fascinating process of being completely free to join or to go. And although it took me a while to get used to it, I have to say that that was one of the best events I participated. But before we were actually really able to participate in it, we had to go through medical research. And we are slowly going to the part of our journey called coronavirus. Ta-da! I mean, that was just beginning. I mean, not beginning of coronavirus, because we heard about it already a long time ago, but it was beginning of considering that it may actually come to other countries, or to India especially, as well. And they told us that they were even asked to cancel this unconference, but they meant it was not yet really common. There was maybe few people in India having it in India. You know, India is huge, so few people is like really nothing. So they kind of say, okay, so we do all the safety measure we can, but we don't cancel this unconference. And well, the safety measure was to check all the foreigners. There were maybe 20 of us in this 500 people event, so they couldn't do medical research to everybody. So they did it to foreigners, which I have to say didn't make that much sense, because I would say 90% of us were in India since 2-3 months. So we were already in the country before actually coronavirus appeared. So, I mean, we were as likely to have it as the Indians. But anyway, they took a lot of photos. I think it was more to show that they actually do something, because, I mean, what they did, they measure our temperature, and they ask if we met somebody coughing or sneezing last days. I was very polite to say to no. Andrea said that he met million people like this. And I mean, it's difficult to reject. I mean, yes, we met million people who are coughing and sneezing, and this is India, so people stay very close together, and there's no other chance. But anyway, we went through this research, and the conference started. I have to say that from all places we've been, probably that was the biggest probability to get the virus, because we're using the same plate. We washed them with sand. So, I mean, nobody thought that time about all this security measure yet. But apparently nobody got virus there. At least no news from that point of view came to us, and we could start the unconference itself, which, as I said, was absolutely magic thing. I mean, just going around and see this all people spontaneously learning from each other, or even more importantly, unlearning things which were kind of imposed to us by society. And it doesn't matter the age of people. There were kids, there were old people, like there was no age limitation in anything we do. We would eat together, we would sing together, we would share our talents, we would just try out, we'll meet every morning for like opening circle. And later, just whatever place it is, we'll discuss, yeah, like, you know, changemakers, like in our game, but it can be again about healthy living, about unschooling, about future of our life, about romantic relation, and so on and so on. There was also a lot of dancing, and it's really crazy. A lot of parties of this type and so on. And it was in the middle of the desert, which by itself was very beautiful scenario. And it's there where we met the initiatives called Conscious Connection. Actually, we just wrote the story about them. So in a few days, you will receive it in Boost newsletter, and you can see it on our website. So here, just in a few words, I tell you that it's initiative which try to make ceremonies, especially wedding ceremonies, a really profound and deep experience, which really relate people to each other. And it's not just formality. So they designed very individual ceremonies for couples based on their passion, on their stories, or things which are important to them. And they tried to make it very, very special. I participated in a workshop organized by them about romantic relationships, and it was already amazing. Probably for the first time so deeply, I had a chance to discuss about romantic relation in the country where still half of the marriages are arranged. So their concept of love very often is very different than our concept of love. And this is a super fascinating program to not spoil the story which we just wrote, I will not tell you more, but you can check their website, or you can check firstly our story and then their website to a little bit more understand and also reflect what love is and how can we actually cultivate it. From very, very touching moments, I would like to mention kind of closing or this unconference, which we did appreciate in circle. So basically there was again like few hundred of us. In some part, maybe 30-40 people will sit inside for a few minutes with closed eyes and open hearts. And other people will go around and whisper to their ears the words of appreciation. Sometimes very personal, if they knew or noticed this person before. Sometimes just saying quite general but still words of support. And after a few minutes we would change, so everybody would have a chance to be inside. And I mean, this was so emotionally powerful moment, really. Like just the energy of this place when people were really seriously spending these few seconds, few minutes concentrating on one person and really appreciating him or her, create such an atmosphere that, I mean, for me it was difficult to take it emotionally without crying. Not even because, of course, when they were whispering to me especially, but then this love which was somehow created inside of all this situation was pretty amazing. I can assure you that this is how we will finish our own training in future. So if you want to join, and we have already planned some of them, you will one way or another experience that, so understand a little bit better than just from my words what it is about. Actually, the last day of unconference was already kind of Holi approaching, so you can start to see people with, a lot of colors on their face. And this is what Holi is about. Holi is called also Festival of Colors, but also Festival of Spring or Love. And it kind of symbolized the victory of good over evil, but also arrival of spring and end of winter, blossoming of love, and so on. And it kind of finished the festival period in India. So it's kind of the last big celebration. And it starts in the evening with this huge fires, which you can see now in the photos. We joined it in Bikaner. This is the, let's say, main celebration, but in every small district you would see this fire. So in the afternoon people were preparing it, also decorating, and in the evening, after a little bit of blessing and the ceremony, they would open the fire. We didn't realize, but in the moment they opened the fire, somebody has to jump to it and take out this huge stick you could see at the beginning. And I mean, it's quite crazy because the fire is already spreading around and this person is just jumping inside the fire. And we're like, I thought he's crazy, to be honest, because I didn't know there is this tradition of taking the stick out. And then the people are going around the fire, saying wishes and so on. And you can also take some of the coal to home later. This is the part which I celebrated in the evening. But the main part, which is day after, in the morning, people go on the street. They use these colors, which before were produced from natural materials. Now they are more artificial. But anyway, people will, throw it at each other and then hug each other and wish all the best. It's also the day of forgiveness and the day of repairing broken relations. So people celebrate together on the street. They got quite drunk. And then in the afternoon, they clean and they go for some family meetings. But this I know more from the stories and the photos which you see because, I got absolutely sick the night before. And I mean, this is crazy. We really plan our journey the way we have a chance to be sure to celebrate Holi. That was really quite important point in our travel. And whenever we expect something too much, it never works out. That was the worst day of this travel, I promise. So basically I got super poisoned in the night before, like never in my life. I mean, I fainted twice. I was not able to move for next 2-3 days. We had to change our plans because I was not able to travel by train. This is the time when Corona started to be more around. So when we arrived to the city, actually people start to scream Corona when they saw us. They scream coronavirus to any foreigner. So going to the doctor was not really that much an option because, they wouldn't treat seriously anything else than Corona. And this was exactly the day where Nepal closed the border for Italians, and we're supposed to leave India 2-3 weeks later, because although we had 1 year visa, every 3 months you have to go out of the country. So we planned to go to Nepal, but Nepal closed the borders for Italians, and Andrea got blacklisted. First time probably in our travel it was Italian to get blacklisted. But anyway, 2 days later everybody got banned, so I also couldn't join Nepal. 2 days later, it was India to ban Italians, and 2 days later also all the others. But let's say that India fortunately said, okay, if you are already inside, we don't kick you out. But you can imagine that the situation started to be a little bit more difficult. We didn't really know what to do. We were supposed to leave India because our visa was going to finish, but we couldn't leave. I mean, because there was no country we could actually leave. So, I mean, we keep moving. Still, according to the plan, we're going more north, and those photos you see are still from like Rajasthan region. But more and more of our discussions and thoughts were around, okay, what now? What should we do? What should we do? And you know how it was at the beginning. There was no really clear information. Nobody knew how seriously we should treat this. This would be a matter of few weeks, few months, or what we actually should do. That time, Italy was already, I mean, it was blacklisted, so you can imagine that the situation in Italy was already not that good. So coming back to Europe didn't really seem the best option that time. So we kind of considered to stay in India, also because through our 2-month journey, we already got to know quite a few people who offer us to come to them in this time of crisis and stay as long as we want. Which again, that was amazing feeling to know that there are people who will take care of us, and we are super grateful for that. And I think that in none of I mean, India was one of the most hospitable and open country from that point of view for sure. But still, we are very insecure also about visa and so on. We tried to call different embassies, and you know how it is. They would tell us, call this person, call this person, call this person. And then they just told us to go to the foreign affairs office in the closest city. Where we've been in the unconference, of course, or even Bikaner, there was not such an office. So we start to go towards north to Amistar. But on the way, we visit our very dear friend, Deepak, who really saved us many times. I mean, he was the one who explained us how this train system is working. And actually, his father was connected with trains. So we had a lot of interesting stories from within. But he was also the one who, in the middle of this chaos, was just super calm, not scared of virus, one of those who proposed us to stay as long as we want, very involved in different kinds of social projects, big promoter of healthy lifestyle, including raw food. He organized a party with raw food for a lot of people for his father's celebration, and there's a lot he did. But again, the most grateful we are for these 2 days of calmness. I was still recovering from my poison, and we had time to a little bit make our mind. So when we reached Amritsar, we could already had some idea what's going on around. So we started from going to this office, and at the beginning they told us that they cannot prolong our visa, but then they called somewhere, because we are quite stubborn, and say, look, I mean, we cannot come back to Italy, we are kind of like refugees, in fact. You cannot just send us back to the country which is under coronavirus now. So then they start to call some officials, and finally they say, okay, actually there is official procedure, so everybody who are inside the country, they can prolong their visa. But the point is that you have to decide where you will stay for all this time. And in the place you will stay, you go to the closest office to register. I mean, you actually register online, but in the office which is the closest to the place you will stay, then you go to the police, and police will tell you what to do. Well, the problem was we had no idea where we want to stay that time. Again, we had few options, but the best of them was 2,000 kilometers away in south of India, and we didn't know really so well what to do. So we start from going to Golden Temple, which is in Amritsar itself. And it's absolutely amazing place. It's actually the spiritual place of Sikh religion, where everybody can come and just be. You can come and sleep for free, stay there as long as you want for free, also eat for free. So there's like thousands of people eating every day. It's almost 24 hours open canteen. You have to like just look at this photo. No, it's like massive cooking going on all the time, and it's all done by volunteers basically. These are chapati, which are just not used chapati. Just look at this, you know. So this flat bread, which is quite famous in India. And here you see how it works. So people basically come to the canteen place, sit with the plates, and there are other people who go around to serve them. You eat, then they clean, and next people are coming. And this is happening really almost 24 hours. And basically, even for volunteering, you don't really have volunteering hours. If you want to help, you just ask somebody on the way, what can you do? And they give you a task, maybe with washing dishes, maybe with distributing food, or whatever it is. And in some sense, there's no division between volunteers and beneficiaries. Like you are all one. Very often people would eat and maybe then volunteer for 1 hour and they go. You know, there's because this division, volunteers and beneficiaries, already creates some kind of barriers, because I'm helping you, while here everybody contribute as much as they can and they want, and they also take as much as they want, and nobody really asks where are you from, if you deserve it, if you are poor enough. You don't have to prove anything, which I find amazingly inspiring, actually. I don't know if you know, but Sikh religion is actually the 5th largest organized religion. There's like 25 million people who follow it. Mostly they are in India, in north. And they really care about this balance between spiritual development and everyday like this moral conduct. So this really selfless service, which there you can see very well. You can there's a place for kind of foreign to stay as well, and you can meet a lot of people. So if you are around, we definitely recommend to go and stay few days in the temple itself. You don't even need to go out. Everything is basically there. Also in the Golden Temple itself, which you could see on the photos, there is a constant praying, and you can also go and sit or just go around, meditate a bit, observe people, whatever you wish. It's really one of the most fascinating spiritual spaces we met on our way, and again, very good place to contemplate a bit what we want to do next. And after discussing a bit, we decided actually to follow our plans, and our plan was to go for 2 weeks volunteering in ashram in Rishikesh, which is a little bit more like east-north, let's say, of India. We contact with them. They ask us when we arrived to India. We told them we arrived more than 2 months ago. So they said, okay, so you can come and volunteer. So we thought, okay, we go to volunteer, and then we will just see how the situation develop. So next day we took a train, 6 hours train, and we arrived to Rishikesh. Rishikesh is like next spiritual corner. So a lot of people who like yoga, meditation go there. It's in the mountain. All the photos now are from there. So meanwhile, when I told you a story of our last days in India, you will see photos from Rishikesh exactly. And it's quite a dramatic story because, we arrived to Rishikesh sure that we have place to stay. And when we were just about to go to the ashram, they actually wrote us that all in all, they would like to have health certificate from us. And we say, okay, but where should we take the health certificate right now? We're already in Rishikesh. And they pointed out one hospital. So we went to this hospital, not very convinced, because, going to hospital when you're healthy in times of coronavirus is not exactly the smartest thing to do. But okay, we went to hospital. There was like big arrow corona, so we went there. Although again, I was like, I'm not sure I want to enter the place where people who think who has corona enter as well. We actually managed to stop two nurses. Well, anyway, they helped us a bit. So we asked, what should we do? That we need this health certificate. We are not that convinced to enter emergency. So they fortunately went for information for us, and it occurs that Well, we can get health certificate. The point is that it doesn't confirm much. It just confirms that this moment we have no syndromes, no symptoms. Because to have final answer, they have to take our blood, send it somewhere else, because they don't do that many tests. We know it from Europe very well. It will take some days and so on and so on. So yeah, we can get certificate that we don't have symptoms, and the fact that we don't have symptoms, I can also say myself, right? The point is that first of all, we have to enter the place where people with coronavirus come, and secondly, it was Sunday, and Sunday then don't give health certificate. So we wrote to our ashram, and they say, okay, so wait till tomorrow, and take your certificate tomorrow and come to us tomorrow. And that was quite a turning point for us, because we thought, okay, I mean, situations start to be more and more serious. We wanted to go for 2 weeks to ashram, which in the moment we arrived to the new city, just tell us come day after, didn't even ask if we have place to stay. Of course, there was a lot of hostels and we could stay without problem, but somehow we were also scared to go to the place. We don't know nobody. And we are not sure we can really rely on them if in this moment they already kind of withdraw, how it will be when the situation will be more serious. What if they will not accept us for longer and we will basically, stay without place again in the times which became more and more challenging. So after discussing a bit, also not that convinced to come back to this hospital day after for the certificate, and again go in the middle when the viruses come, we decided to come back to Europe. So, well, that was not easy, because first thought was to come back to Poland, because Italy was a center of coronavirus, right? But we are not married, and as you may know or not, Poland forbids foreigners to come. If Andrea would be my husband, he would be allowed to enter, but as he was not, there was no way for him. There were even organized charter flights to Poland, paid ones, but Andrea was not able to enter it. And we quite fastly decided to not spread, because we didn't know how long the situation will take, and we didn't consider really to go. We consider it a bit, but all in all, we always reject the idea that I go to Poland and Andrea goes to Italy. So if not Poland, the next option was Italy. There was no charter flights to Italy, but there were regular flights still, not even that expensive. More expensive than in normal times, but still quite reasonable price. So we managed to buy it in more or less 1 week time. So we checked that I can enter Italy. Italy never forbid foreigners enter, so those who could enter before coronavirus could also enter after. So we bought the flight and we say, okay, so we stay maybe 4 more days in Rishikesh, and then we go to New Delhi, where our flight's supposed to happen. Very good plan. Day after, they cancel our flight. We were staying in some bar when we discovered that our flight is already canceled. That was the time when it happened a lot, all the time. So we start to call airlines, nobody answer. We start to contact embassy. Actually, embassies worked quite well, and I have to say that both Polish and Italian through email and Facebook answer most of our messages, even if they were not able to help, but they really were in touch with us, and this has to be definitely underlined. Anyway, after a few hours of fighting, the flight company sent us email proposing the other flight, which was 2 days after. And I was like, okay, perfect. I really relieved, cry, we are happy. We decided to go to New Delhi as soon as possible to just be close to the airport in case, so we moved to New Delhi to a friend which we also met in the Hasmukh Forum, and he was really, really say, yes, come to me immediately. Although situations start to be more and more tense, and although he say yes, then he has to face a lot of his neighbors, which were angry with him that he accepts foreigners, which can also show you how the tension was growing. There was already time when foreigners sometimes would be kicked off the hostels, hotels, and in some sense you could see that the story of foreigners bringing virus is going around a lot. And people would sometimes cover their faces, sing us, and so on. And doesn't matter. We've been in Italy in half a year before or whatever. So yeah, it started to be more and more uncomfortable because although we still have the same places to go, the same 4 or 5 people offering us help, we start to understand that it's not only decision to help us, it's decision to stay against their own communities very often, which didn't want foreigners around. And so we were pretty convinced to leave India as soon as possible. It was 2 days before our flight, but I have to say that we were really scared that something will go wrong, cancel again or whatever. And actually what happened was that the day we arrived in New Delhi, India decided that in 2 days, so one day before our next flight, they close all the airports. There is no plane which can enter or leave India. And we were very lucky that our host was actually following the news. It was like 7 or 8 in the evening, and if he would not follow this news, we would not have chance to try to get to the last train, which was flying to Italy. So that night, 48 hours before our plane, there was one more plane going to Italy. We didn't have ticket for it. But we decided just to go to airport and see what can be done. And Andrea went there around 9 p.m. and I joined him around midnight because anyway, my host was going to airport to pick up his daughter. So I just went with him with all the bags. And the flight's supposed to go 4 in the morning. But the problem with New Delhi airport is that you cannot really enter the airport if you don't have ticket. So you cannot even go and speak to people from the airline. There are 2 small offices which are responsible for all the possible airlines, and they don't know much. So Andrea especially really spent 6 hours in front of these offices trying to tell them, hey, let us into the plane. And, their response was very different, from ignoring us to tell us, please wait, and disappearing for 1.5 hours, on telling us you have to buy the new ticket, which at that time cost already 3,000 euro, and telling us actually there's no ticket, no planes. There was quite a lot of foreigners in the, just being there in the very different mental stages. Some of them really break down. And, a lot of people trying to go out of the country, which basically in 24 hours would be completely closed. And, I didn't believe they will let us into this plane. What is the probability they will let us into the plane, which is 48 hours? We don't have ticket for it. We will not pay 3,000 euro for that because we simply don't have this money and so on. We were staying there simply because we didn't even know what to do. It's 3 in the night. We will not come back to our host who is sleeping already. So we didn't have any better concept. And we were just from time to time remembering them that, hey, we exist, or asking them maybe we can just enter the airport itself to talk to the Air Italia, which is supposed to take us. And then suddenly around 3 in the morning, just one guy came to us and he said, okay, come. And we didn't know if he say come so we can talk to Air Italia or we can come so we can go to the plane. But basically he took us to the check-in point and they took our bags and they give us boarding pass without really saying anything. And this is so emotional that really, it's second week in a row I'm telling the story and I'm still crying on it. But basically at the end we were on the plane and we managed some hours later to come to Italy and then come to the Andrea's house, which was also not that easy because most trains in Italy were not working and we still had to go 300 kilometers from Rome to Fano. But we managed to come. Nobody asked me what I'm doing in Italy if I'm Polish. Nobody asked me why in this particular place I want to do quarantine. And that's how at the end of March we arrived to Italy, and that's where we are actually now. It was much shorter than we supposed. We wanted to stay at least 3-4 more months around. So we have this feeling of kind of trip being broken in the middle. So we hope that one day we will be able to finish. But, well, we are very grateful that in these challenging times we managed to solve it that way. And yeah, that's the end of our North India journey of this year. Hopefully this would have, it would be continued. So someday we'll be able to do next presentation about India and tell you more adventures. For now, again, a big thank you to everybody who helped us on the way, because without you, we wouldn't make it. And, well, thanks to all people who are listening to me now or will listen to us later on YouTube. If you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to write them down. I'm happy to answer now, during next minute or two. Or if you have any questions later, you can always send us a message and I'm happy to answer. If I mistake anything, say something wrong about India and you would like to correct me, please do it in the comment here or on YouTube. We are always happy to improve our presentations as well.